You're watching WJCL 22 News.
I need the police to answer immediately. My wife and child got badly.
They did check them?
Yes, sir.
It's official that they're dead?
Yes, sir. That's what it looks like.
Mr. Murdaugh, do you hope to testify this week?
I'm Alec Murdaugh.
Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth.
Were you in fact at the kennels at 8:44 p.m. on the night Maggie and Paul were murdered?
I was. I would never intentionally do anything to hurt either one of them. Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told a lie, I had to keep lying.
When he said it was him, were you surprised?
I was very surprised.
Why?
That was his only savior right there.
The state versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh. Indictment for murder. Guilty.
I'm innocent. I would never hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never hurt my son, Paul.
Well, and it might not have been you. It might have been the monster you become.
6 weeks, 75 witnesses, less than 3 hours of deliberations. That's all it took for a jury to convict Alec Murdaugh of murder. A disgraced attorney will now spend the rest of his life in prison. In Murdaugh's latest mugshot, he's got a shaved head. South Carolina Department of Corrections says he will remain in a single cell at a facility in Columbia for the next 45 days until the state determines where he will be permanently. From emotional testimony to graphic evidence and now a conviction, here's what happened during sentencing on Friday.
I'm innocent. I would never hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never hurt my son, Paul.
Despite the jury's verdict,
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Alec Murdaugh insisted during his sentencing hearing Friday he isn't the one who shot and killed his wife Maggie and son Paul in June of 2021.
As I tell you again, I respect this court, but I'm innocent.
Judge Clifton Newman not entertaining the disbarred attorney's claims.
Well, and it might not have been you. It might have been the monster you become when you take 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 opioid pills.
Newman sentenced Murdaugh to 2 consecutive life sentences for the murders of Maggie and Paul. It's the sentence the state had asked for.
Your Honor, a man like that, a man like this man, should never be allowed to be among free, law-abiding citizens again.
Throughout the murder trial, prosecutors detailed Murdaugh's alleged financial crimes. They believe he killed his wife and son in order to keep those crimes from being uncovered.
There's only one person who had the motive, who had the means, who had the opportunity to commit these crimes.
But the defense argued Murdaugh had a great relationship with the victims and claimed the state's theory doesn't make sense.
Even if the financial day of reckoning was impending, if it was right there, Alec would not have killed the people he loved the most in the world. There's no evidence that he would do that.
In an ABC News exclusive, a juror spoke to Eva Pilgrim on how the jury came to their decision.
When you first got in the room, you took a vote?
It was 2 not guilty, 1 not sure, and 9 guilty.
What was your vote?
Guilty.
From the start?
Yes.
Moyer says it didn't take long to get everyone on the same page.
We started deliberating, going through the evidence. Everybody was pretty much talking, and I don't know, about 45 minutes later, after all our deliberating, we figured it out.
So it took basically 45 minutes for you guys to come to a decision?
Probably about 45, maybe an hour.
That's really fast.
Yeah, the evidence was clear.
He says it was this piece of video featuring Alec's voice at the crime scene moments before the murders that convinced him.
I hear his voice clearly, and everybody else could too.
Alec finally admitting it was him for the first time a year and a half after the murders.
When he said it was him, were you surprised?
I was very surprised.
Why?
That was his only savior right there.
For some people, it's so hard to understand how a husband, especially a father, would kill their own son. What made you so sure that he had?
His responses, how quick he was with the defense, and his lies, steady lies.
Did you feel like he was a liar?
A good liar, but not good enough.
Moyer also not convinced by moments like this. Alec appearing emotional on the stand.
What did you think when Alec Murdaugh took the stand?
I didn't think much of him.
Really?
Really. I didn't see any true remorse or any compassion or anything.
Even though he cried a lot on the stand.
He never cried.
He never cried. What do you mean by that?
All he did was blow snot.
Did you not see tears?
No tears.
How did you know he wasn't crying?
Because I saw his eyes. I was this close to him.
Moyer says he also didn't buy the defense's argument that Alec didn't have enough time to commit the crime and create an alibi.
The defense said there's no way he could have done all these things, clean everything up, get it all ready, and then go to his mom's and come back in that short amount of time.
I think there's just enough time.
All those factors leading the jury to hand over that guilty verdict.
If you really look at everything, it's all plain and clear.
And again, that was Eva Pilgrim reporting. On Friday, Murdaugh's defense team said they intend to appeal. Andy Cole explains what's next.
10 days we'll be filing an appeal.
Alec Murdaugh's defense team is adamant about an appeal after a Colleton County jury found him guilty in the murder of his wife Maggie and son Paul.
The admission of all the financial crime evidence, and that was offered up, as evidence of motive, that because he was confronted about one financial transaction involving attorney's fees by the chief accountant of the law firm, that was being offered as motive for why he would go home and kill his wife and son, which we thought was illogical and ludicrous.
Murdaugh's defense attorneys say the other crimes evidence was brought in for motive, but turned into character evidence, something they will appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary.
We think the appellate courts will take a strong look at that. We feel like that is a very solid ground for an appeal, and we're going to pursue that.
Should he take the stand?
The defense was also questioned about the decision to put Murdaugh on the stand.
We debated that. He always wanted to take the stand, but once that information was in, he had to take the stand to explain the kennel video, the lie, if you will. He had to, but he had no credibility. His credibility had been stripped away.
Friday morning, Murdaugh was given 2 consecutive life sentences in prison without the possibility of parole, a punishment locals say fits the crime.
These crimes were important because he needs to go to state prison with all of the people that he has sent there and that his father has sent there, and let him be with people who aren't at Club Fed.
I just feel like things went according to God's plan, and the people here in the county that really saw what actually had happened and did not fall prey to the influence.
One of the most notable moments from the trial is this right here, the 2 days Alec Murdaugh took the stand.
The defendant, Richard Alexander Murdaugh, wishes to take the stand.
For 2 straight days, Alec Murdaugh took the stand in his own double murder trial. The disbarred attorney insisted to the jury he isn't the one who killed his wife Maggie and son Paul.
Just to be clear, were you anywhere in the vicinity when Paul and Maggie were shot?
I was nowhere near Paul and Maggie when they got shot.
Murdaugh did admit, though, he lied to investigators about where he was minutes before the murders.
Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth!
Mr. Murdaugh, is that you? On the kennel video at 8:44 p.m. on June 7th, the night Maggie and Paul were murdered.
It is.
Murdaugh had previously told investigators he was inside their Moselle home taking a nap at this time.
What was it that clicked? So you said in this interview that it clicked that I'm going to lie about the most important fact that I know?
I'm not sure exactly when in it that I decided to lie, but believe it was during this interview.
Murdaugh blamed the lie on his longtime opioid addiction, saying it made him paranoid.
I wasn't thinking clearly. I don't think I was capable of reason.
But he denied he was paranoid about his alleged financial crimes being uncovered.
I wasn't overly concerned about it.
When asked about being confronted by a member of his law firm about fraudulent activity the day of the murders, Murdaugh had this to say.
To me, it certainly didn't seem like a confrontation.
Throughout his hours-long cross-examination, prosecutor Creighton Waters made a point to grill Murdaugh about his tendency to lie.
You've done that over and over again over the years with all of this that we've been talking about, haven't you?
I've done what over and over again?
The second that you're confronted with facts that you can't deny, you immediately come up with a new lie.
I would disagree with that proposition that you're putting out.
Murdaugh still faces 99 charges for financial crimes. There is no court date set at this point. And our coverage of the trial of Alec Murdaugh does not stop here. Head on over to WJCL.com for a full timeline of events, related interviews, and video evidence presented in the trial.